Hello. Trying to remember how to change my bit rate. Let's see if it'll give us any better thing. Video bit rate. Let's try 3Ks. Apply. Okay. Maybe that'll be better. Maybe that'll be better. Okay, so this doesn't seem too bad. So where we left off, we needed to do some stuff about relative pointers that was better than what we were doing. Okay, so we mostly, yeah, okay, I see what to do. So we have this ensure pointer is not relative, and it's actually, it does two things, or it does multiple things. It's like, hey, um, here's what we can do. I'm kind of going to add an extra argument, and this is going to say bool pointers only, and this is a little confusing, right? If pointers only is equal to true, which is the default, we only want to do a type conversion if it is a pointer. It's a string, etc., etc. We don't want to do that conversion. On the other hand, sometimes we do want to decode strings, array, etc. In those cases, we set pointers only as true. This is probably a bit confusing since the name of this routine is slightly misleading, but if this works out, we can clean that up later when we think of a better name, which I don't know right this second because it's a little weird. Okay. Long time no stream. I just streamed 5 hours ago. Ticket life has been hitting hard. No, I just didn't really feel like streaming. Like, you don't have to make drama out of everything, you know? In fact, that's pretty unhealthy. Okay, so we're going to say if pointers only, Then we do that. Okay. Then okay, great. So then, because it's C++, we need to do this stupid stuff. What? Bool pointers only is true. I bet we're calling this from polymorph. No, we're not. Interesting. Okay, well, we might break something, but it's only in this file. So I just need to audit this. This was our one that we did here. Do do we know the op? Yeah. Okay, so binary operator type is dot. So this if statement didn't ever do anything. Okay. So that is definitely pointer only, because that was the problem we were having is you don't want to do this on strings, for example. Okay. False and then true. So this would be false. And then true. I mean, it's pointer math, so it doesn't matter, but whatever. We'll be specific about our intent. Sure, pointer is not relative. Here we actually do want to decode arbitrary things, I believe. Here, this is pointer math, so we definitely constrain that to pointers. Again, it doesn't matter, but we're being clear about intent there. Here, we say false. We don't, this could be anything, because you could switch on a string, for example, and you want to decode that string in that case. This is old and commented out. This one, this is false. Oh, wait, did I pass the wrong? Hold on. Yeah, this actually, right, the default value, we actually need, see, I was confusing myself. Okay, good way to give yourself some debugging time. Okay, so here, we need to set that to false ourselves. If C++ didn't suck, we could just name the argument, but we can't. All right, so this is weird and sort of duplicate logic with what was below. Is this, are we inferring type for declaration here? Yeah. So this is a declaration with any expression, and it's not constant. So we're assigning a declaration to something else. In the expression slot and not the type slot. I'm going to leave that for now. Yeah, actually, okay. So that might be everything we need to do, but I probably screwed it up, so we probably need to review that again. How am I going to be a big streamer if I don't stream regularly? It is true. The number one thing that Twitch says is stream on a schedule if you want to grow your user base. But you know, it's not my highest priority, as you can see. All right, let's see if that actually solved a problem. Hey, well, this program still works. How about this? I was expecting this to be a little harder. Okay, that works. And then what about our other thing? This one. It all works. Ship it. See, that's the power of taking a break and going to dinner. Ship it, baby. What's going on, everybody? I'm actually not sure how it's been since I've streamed. It's probably been about 2 weeks, right? Is that accurate? I think I streamed right before I got on the plane to come to Texas, which would have been like the 17th, which would have been 12 days ago. Wow, has it been that long? That's crazy, dude. 12 days. I think you left in an extra int k equals blah. Yeah, I don't want to take those out because if the debugger is so stupid that those need to be there, then if I take them out, I just interfere with my ability to debug next time. How's Texas? It's Texasy. Um, I probably like being in Austin better than San Francisco, to be honest. I don't know. Okay, I think that we now run some tests. Something will probably fail, right? Because we frickin' changed a lot. There's like 6 bug fixes checked in. Oh, also, um, relative. Okay, okay, we already put this one in. Okay. This also would have been, might have affected some other things too. All right, so we're going to run tests in debug. It'll take a bit because it is slow. So, let's see if the Sokoban game runs. Boy, it's doing some slow things. Probably this is slowing it down. We're passing the test though. Talking with Kenzie about an opening a while back. Are you still hiring? I mean, you'd have to be more specific about which opening, and how long ago it was. Like, we are looking for 1 or 2 people, but only in very specific roles. Like, we're not hiring like across any subject, you know? Okay, well, maybe I get to check this in a minute, and then we can do some game stuff. I'm going to email the person who reported this and say that it's going to be fixed in the next beta, which I generally do with people. Do we have a formal definition of the grammar? No. Grammars are not worth bothering thinking about for the most part. The only reason computer science school spends so long masturbating about grammar is because it was a thing that was formalized way back in like the 1950s and 60s, I guess mostly the 60s, back before we'd figured out a lot of the interesting things to do with computers. And so it just became part of the canon, but it's honestly not something to bother with for the most part. All right. Okay, so that bug was reported 8 days ago, but because I've been traveling, it took me longer to get to it. Okay, that's not 100% of the reported bugs, but it's most of them. So we could do a new beta. The problem is I forgot to bring my Linux VM with me on the trip. So either I would have to set up a new one from scratch and make the beta happen in that, or I wait a few days till I go home to ship it. I should probably do the latter, just to not have to blood pressure. Will it be an update video on the water stuff I discussed with Casey? Probably not for a long time. Is there any part of theoretical computer science that you consider useful, interesting? Well, understanding time complexity of algorithms is very important. So you definitely should do that, and that's something that's taught classically in computer school. Just understanding the different paradigms of programming languages is important. Like you should know functional languages versus imperative languages versus, declarative and whatever. You should know that stuff. You should understand recursion. You should understand Boolean logic very well, very well. But yeah, honestly, most of the stuff you really need to know, you probably can learn in 1 semester or a year at most. You don't need like a 4-year CS because it's mostly bullshit. Okay, well, operating systems, actually, you should understand what an operating system really is and how it works and what services it provides, like what a file system is, how that works. You should know data structures, right? So you should understand how data structures work and live in memory, and you should be able to do some basic stuff, like you should be able to build, given a comparison function, you ought to be able to build a binary tree and navigate that tree in order or pre-order or whatever. You should understand that stuff for sure. You should be able to insert something into a tree in sorted fashion. Like, I don't think it has to be a super bananas like red black tree or anything, but you should for sure be able to know how to insert something into a binary tree so that when it's traversed, that item will come out in order with everything else. You should know the basics of sorting algorithms. You don't have to know super tweaky things about any specific ones, but you should know the basics. That sort of goes along with time complexity. I mean, there's things like that. You know, it's non-trivial, but it's also not 4 years. You should know how floating point numbers are represented and how they work. It's a bunch of stuff you don't know. Well, I gave you a list of what to know then. It's not a complete list, but it's a lot of it. If you know all the things I said, you're better than most JavaScript programmers. Um, and like I said, it really doesn't take long to learn those things. I mean, some of them are moderately, so like operating systems is a moderately big topic, but again, like at UC Berkeley or whatever, there was only like one operating system class, maybe two. Oh, okay, concurrency, you should understand, you should understand what data races are. You should understand how to solve them, like how to not have that problem. And that also tells you about databases, right? Like you should understand what a database is and how that works. Again, you don't need to go super deep into it. Like we had like a semester long database class that I never took. You don't need that. But I think if you understand concurrency and then try a little bit to make a simple database that has, out of core storage, you'll kind of get it. Have I ever met any genius programmer? I mean, I know John Carmack. I don't know if Tim Sweeney does that much programming anymore, but I've met Tim Sweeney a couple times. Have I heard of DARPA's digital tutor program? No, no. Yeah, computer science curricula have a lot of stuff that's a waste of time. So like, we had this one class where there was just like a lot of different trees, and it's just like, who gives a crap? Like, if you need to know, that's fine, right? Just pick the major ones, do them, mention a bunch of the rest of them in like one lecture and say, look, if you ever need one of these, you can go look it up, you know? Like the thing that's really missing from computer science school, at least back when I took it, was serious programming practice. Like we should have spent a lot more time programming than we did. Um, and part of that is it was so inefficient the time that we spent because it was like in bullshit languages like Scheme, so you spend all your time debugging. Like that's no good. No good. You spend all your database classes doing bullshit about Bacchus Now form? That sounds like a very bad database class. Very bad. Because that has nothing to do with databases. That's like parsing the query language or some crap. Yeah, that's nothing. I mean, you should definitely like for databases, okay, there's basically two things. There's concurrency and normalization are the two big topics in databases. So understand data normalization, that's very good. Will cooperative and multitasking coroutines be built in? Probably not, but you'll probably be able to make your own eventually. You can't really quite do that right now. You spent 3 weeks learning to balance a B plus tree by hand. That also sounds like a giant waste of time. Your database courses was all about relational algebra. That kind of sounds like a waste of time. Yeah, so much of my computer science time was a waste of time, but then a lot of it wasn't. And I just wish the part that wasn't had been focused on, it would have been so much better. So much better. Yeah, like implementing malloc is good. Again, you can start with a very simple thing like a bump allocator, right? And then go from there. That's a totally reasonable thing to learn. Well, I think we passed all the tests, right? Yeah. Unlike school, we passed all the tests. So commit. Uh, this is a collection of fixes involving relative pointers. I didn't even put them in the change log in order, and some other stuff. Oh, do we have no check-ins? Probably we have at least one. No, not there. We'll see if we have one in the other files. What are we going to work on? I think we're going to switch to game stuff now because we've been doing compiler stuff for a while. I think it's because the teachers are unqualified, or why do I think so much time gets spent on useless stuff? It's just there's some idea of what the classic computer science curriculum is, right? And that doesn't change very quickly. And okay, I think, just like the average programmer is worse now um, than they used to be because the field has grown so much, the average computer science teacher is worse now than they used to be. Like probably even a little before I got to school, like in the 70s or something, the average computer science teacher was probably really pretty good, like new in terms of knowing what they were doing. And I think that's been going downhill consistently since then. It started going super downhill once the web happened. Um, and so, the teachers that are not that good, they're mostly just cargo culting, right? Like you need like I mean, Richard Feynman didn't do much computer science, but you need a character like that to like set agenda in terms of what gets taught. Otherwise, it's like a giant committee, a giant distributed committee meeting, and that's not going to produce anything really good. If a 30-year-old computer science major like you is realizing how little you know and is now making efforts to learn everything I'm talking about, and make a game from scratch is too late for your age based on how long it might take to learn everything. No, you can learn you can learn the basics very quickly. Okay, don't worry about that. The important thing is, of course, you do have proportionally less time than if you had learned this stuff earlier, but not that much less. Like, look, I mean, I took like 5 years in college, so I was like 23 when I dropped out or something, and didn't even know a lot of these things that I just mentioned. I knew a lot of them because they were taught, but I didn't take the database classes, so I learned about databases later on my own, right? So, you're missing a few years there, but it's not that bad, and you can make up for it with diligence and the true desire to crank, right? And again, working on a project like that, like if you're making a game that you really want to make, you're going to learn more efficiently than people usually do in school because having something to focus like that is very good. I think computer science teachers in the 70s were mathematicians first. I don't really think so. Um, there definitely was more. There was more of a mathematical presence, but um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm reading The Dream Machine right now still. I still haven't finished it. But we're still sort of in the 1950s here. We're in 1955 with the IBM 704 and the PDP-1 and stuff like that. Um, so we're still a little bit earlier than that time I was talking about, but um, what book is that? It is called The Dream Machine by M. Mitchell Waldrop, and it's a pretty reasonable and entertaining history of how computers were developed. So I think in the future that there will be a theoretical CS degree and an applied CS degree. There already is that at a lot of schools, for sure. You think your discrete math course was one of the most useful classes you took in your degree? I don't, I don't remember liking discrete math that much. I mean, it's definitely like knowing about permutations and all that stuff, you know, is pretty good. But like, I honestly don't remember that much from discrete math. Um, Linear algebra would have been way better for what I do, except our linear algebra class was not that good. You need to take linear algebra from Sheldon Axler, and then you'll be good. Okay, we checked in. We're gonna do some game stuff. Um, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna start changing the gameplay rules a little bit. I'm kind of behind. I might have to update the code before we check in, unfortunately, but that'll involve pulling down a lot of data. Should have done that at dinner, but I didn't think of it. And that might take time over hotel Wi-Fi. I'm looking for the list of what we talked about at a meeting. Level entry reset we did. Crystals I looked into. Let me get my pen. Getting my pen. Practical advice on reacquiring C or CPP 20 years after you last touched it. Um, Keep it simple. There's a lot of stuff that's way too complicated. Don't bother with any of that complicated stuff. Just, again, figure out what you need to do. Okay, how do you do that in a simple way? And just do it. Do it simply. Where's my, oh yeah, I got it for the, okay, I did this. Did this. Fade out takes a long time. River rule modifications. Oops. Okay. Let's see why the frickin' fade out takes a long time. Let's see that happen. So Let's make a new release compiler. So we've got a new hotness. What's a good age for professor? Why does age matter? If I thought about teaching at a university later in life, no, I would hate it. If I did a school, I would make my own school. I can't stand university politics and all that stuff. It's a giant waste of time. Okay, so we have the new hotness compiler. We're still using my D drive, which is really slow. Need to fix that at some point. I need to copy stuff onto the C drive. It's just like an older SSD, so I think it's slow because we've hammered on it for a long time. All right, anyway, so if I go to Heroes 1.1 or whatever and solve it, what if I made a paid online course? I don't know if I want to do a paid online course. I mean, maybe, but I'd rather try an in-person thing first because I think that's better. Probably compressing textures. Oh, it's shaders. Shaders. That didn't take very long. Oh, that takes, oh, that's different from what I thought. But that's because we're loading things. Maybe it was just a bug that I fixed with some of these other steps. Oh, no, that, oh. What the hell was that? Like what? That's really weird. Something's busted. I think it's maybe just the frame rate is slowing down. Let's see, I'm gonna make a release build because we're getting like 30 FPS. Even though we seem to be running at the right sim speed. I want to know if this is like FPS dependent in some way. Alright. Let's make a release build. Isn't Casey working on a course? Yes, he is. Have I ever heard of the School for Poetic Computation? No, I haven't. Do we have any profiler set up? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Do you use RenderDoc? I try not to. I do if I have to, but man, it's grim. Why grim? It's just an annoying kind of crappy program. I mean, it has to do a lot to interface with graphics APIs, so I kind of sympathize, but I've just had had so many frustrating experiences with it that I just don't like it. That's all. Emotional. So that seemed better. Weirdly. So we're at about the same frame rate. Oh, no. Okay. So that didn't really change anything. It's very inconsistent. What up with that? That, like, what? I bet it's just using an inconsistent clock in some way. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Let's go look at it. Let's just look at it. It's weird. Transition. This isn't my comment because I punctuate my sentences. Gameplay DT. Is gameplay DT on? Oh, wait. I bet we moved where update transition is being called from. So it's only getting called once per frame. But gameplay DT is probably a fraction of that. I probably broke it back then. So gameplay DT. Let's look at gameplay DT. Step DT. Yes. Okay. Manager.full frame. See, other things could be wrong here too. I kind of have to audit for this. Now, you know what? We're going to make, forget it. DT, it's a float, right? And then the deal is, some people might have been on this stream where changed where things were called from. We used to have a substep thing, right? Okay, that's in main. So yeah, we can just say total DT. See, this only happens at the end of the frame now. I don't know. Anyway, that should be all that we need. So here, oh, I deleted the DT colon equals, so that's fine. Oh, draw transition is also bullshit. See, this gameplay DT thing that I was doing made sense way back when I wrote it, and then the meaning changed, and sometimes you don't catch all of those. Do I need this DT? No, let's just not even do it. DT was not even being used there. Okay, so update transition, that's fine. Yeah, I really don't like the tendency of kids these days to not use punctuation. It's like that's the downfall of Western civilization right there, man. All right. So this is the super debug. Yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like though. So we have very low frame rate, but that's a good test. Let's make another release build. See how that goes. All right, well that's good. So we fixed a thing and people will appreciate that we fixed that thing. I may have to update though before I can check this in. We'll try checking it in. We will try. Man, I gotta move stuff off this SSD, the slow one. Oh man, 1 minute. Smartphones help you punctuate and capitalize? Apparently they don't, from all available evidence. Things certainly aren't more punctuated and capitalized than they were before smartphones. All right, that's how it's supposed to look. Okay. Nope, not the compiler. No, it's the Sokoban. Fix broken fade times. These are not relevant to that. This is stuff that I don't want to check in. And then let's verify this. Oh, look, a blank line. We pass the parameter. And here I changed this very slight thing. Update transition and delete that. Draw transition. Oh, great. Great. Ship it. It'll probably reject it. Yep. All right. This is a stupid butt thing that we have to do. Any random questions about anything in the universe while I wait for this to update? Or it could take 27 years, for all I know. What's my favorite fruit? I mean, maybe mangoes. Like when I was a kid, I used to like getting like blackberries with lots of sugar on them. I haven't had that in a long time though. Why OpenGL still and not Vulkan?
Because the game's not done.
Like, do you have any idea how much work it is to do that for a modern rendering API? And to have the game working at the same standard that it was before so that the rest of the team's work isn't disrupted? Like, are you kidding me, bro? Glad you liked Primer. Am I moving to Texas or just visiting? Well, the plan was to move here, and I'm kind of doubting that plan now, but we may still do it. We'll see. Is France still modern in terms of social revolution? France seems very backward to me. Have I done an AMA? Yes, but it was for a long time ago. Would I put my brain in a robot body? That doesn't seem like a very productive thing to do. I was looking at Dallas. I am in Austin right now because Dallas kind of sucked. Have I thought about Denver? I've thought about it. Okay, well, it looks like we updated the game. So now we can try checking in again. First, let's make sure it still runs. But would I consider too long for a game to be in development? I mean, it depends. Austin property tax is brutal, not compared to California wealth tax. Uh, Probably not even compared to California property tax. Like it just depends on what the game does, right? If the game took a long time in development and isn't that interesting, then that's not very good, right? If it's one of the most amazing things ever and really moves the field of video games forward, then it's fine if it takes a while. Right? I mean, if it's basically just Farmville, the correct amount of time that it should be in development is 0. So it really depends very much. Glad you enjoyed the remaining puzzles in The Witness. What if I could type fast like the cyborgs in Ghost in the Shell? Would I put my brain in a robot body then? Probably not, because typing speed is not anywhere near the limit of my productivity. Okay. So now we're going to make it so that mirrors don't sync. And then we're going to deal with a little bit of the interesting fallout there. I think that happens in maybe Drown. Let's just show what happens right now. So there was a mirror on this little test level. And right now, if you push mirrors into the water, they sink. So we're going to make that not happen. Some falling. Maybe drown. It's a mirror, do drown. Nope, mirrors don't drown, bro. Mirrors do not drown. And then, oh, not in transition, move transaction. There's probably some mirror stuff in here. Yeah, this, which is no longer a thing. Isn't it going to break a lot of levels? We don't think so. We talked about this in a meeting and sort of decided it wasn't so bad. You think I sound like Christian Slater? Are you kidding me? I don't sound anything like Christian Slater. All right. So that's still a little bit weird because, you know, it's really tall and whatever, but we can work that out later. Okay. So if I do this, mirror should still work. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, video games. Christian Slater peaked in Heathers. That is probably true. Mr. Robot was fun. It was fun if you never saw Fight Club. Mr. Robot is like the shovelware version of Fight Club that takes an entire season to do a 2-hour movie. Oh, True Romance is true. He was good in True Romance. The whole no man it ain't white boy day scene in True Romance is pretty good. If I thought of preloading next levels in a separate thread, we could do that, but why? It's not going to take any time to load them in the shipping game, probably. We'll see. Any shows stand out to me for the past few years? Not really. I think TV right now is basically Farmville also. Like, they make an entire season of TV, and most of it is just coming up with stupid plot beats to fill a season of TV that mostly don't really matter. So, like, all the shows that I tried to watch were pretty bad. They're kind of unwatchable because they're all the same show. They're just like, let's do some random stuff to fill a season of TV. Did I like Devs? I liked Devs at first, and then it became terrible. It became like embarrassingly bad at the end. Like the episode 8 or whatever was the last of Devs was horrible because there was something that was fully consistent with what they were doing that would have been so cool, right? And they didn't do it. Instead, they did stupid bullshit. But it started being bad and not making sense around episode 6, but I was like, ah, I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. And then episode 8 was just terrible. But I like the Americans. I did not see that. Yeah. Devs super disappointing. I should go back in time and remake Devs. Correct them. How could you fuck that up? What's the cool version of Devs? Okay. So prior to the last episode, I think they needed to shoot this a little bit more, but like, the I forget the character's name, the the black dude who lives in the trailer, right? Um, who's hanging around at the door at the end, right? Um, he has this line where he's like, you know, in that box they have a box, and in that box they have a box, and like, uh-oh, right? And that was an interesting point. It was very that's the point that the ending should have focused on, right? And even like I thought it was a little weird, the whole thing prior to that of like, oh my God, the physics predictions break down and we have no idea what's supposed to happen. And for a while I was like, how can you sell that given what the premise is? Because even if in reality something weird broke down, it wouldn't mean that the simulation based on the laws of physics would break down because it's a different thing. But so okay, the point being if you have a simulation that's somehow magically able to simulate itself completely, which is magical to simulate itself completely, etc., you have this long chain of like things simulating each other, right? But probably there are small differences, all right? And you're in this situation where you don't know which one is top level reality, right? You've been assuming it's you, but maybe it's not you all of a sudden. And it sort of doesn't matter because top level reality and your reality are not really the same, at least early on. But as the simulation gets more and more accurate, these nested simulations become more and more the same reality, right? But they might drift by vary a little bit. But you could end up in a situation where like this, or what I would have tried to do is end up in a situation where there's so many realities simulating each other in a line that you could go in and mess with your simulation. Like I could go and say, I'm going to go decide to somehow morph this apple into a bar of gold, right? Which is something that could happen, but it's an incredibly low probability. And you would be doing it, of course, in your simulation on your computer, but because your reality is very close to the outer reality, the person in the outer reality also decided to do that. So you would have a bar of gold in your reality because you decided to simulate one. You know what I'm saying? And so you could like suddenly do magic within the laws of physics as postulated by by the show, and then crazy shit could happen, and then you would do something where you use the fact that it's not exact to make unexpected things happen. That's the part that I haven't thought that much about, but like that would have been the good version of the ending, right? And they face planted so bad. Basically, the book Permutation City, yeah, sort of. You can mute the dialogue in devs if you want. Yeah, it's just the dialogue in devs for the first few episodes is pretty good. Kind of like Inception, no, not like Inception. I will never watch anything written by Damon Lindelof if I can help it. He was not the good part of Lost. The good part of Lost was the casting and some of the high level ideas. Like instead of a bar of gold, it's a bar of uranium kind of thing. No, not that. I don't know exactly. Like I would, okay, so there's also this question of if you have 20, this is brought up in Permutation City actually. If you have 20 simulations of exactly the same thing, do you have 20 conscious experiences or do you have one conscious experience, right? That kind of matters. And so you could have a thing where like realities get so close that maybe you're getting disoriented and you find your consciousness a little bit shifting back and forth between them, right? Or something. Um, because they sort of map to the same consciousness and sort of don't. I don't know. Like there's a lot of things you could do in that direction, is what I'm saying. And it would have been directly in line with the things possible. But instead they did this stupid like they did the English major thing, which is let's take our church metaphor and have that be like push it too far and have that be the finale, and it's like so bad. You needed to do the physics major thing, not the English major thing, for that show to be good. Did I ever read Hyperion? I don't think so. Who wrote that? As if they would get entangled somehow. Yeah, something like that. And so you could like remember that something was a certain way and then find out it wasn't that way. And then maybe you could influence which way it was, right? You could like influence the past by messing with the future, right? Like if you messed with the future simulations so that you wouldn't, like right now I can remember something, but later I can forget it, right? So if I mess with the future simulations so that I become confused about how the thing was in the past, then I might map onto that different conscious experience and then it would be that way if you tweaked it in the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like you could completely change your timeline, sort of. I don't know. You'd have to think it out, but it would be interesting. Dan Simmons wrote the Hyperion series. Yeah, I don't know. Haven't ever read that. You think you don't have to simulate a simulation for it to exist. You only have to simulate something if you want to interact with it or observe it externally. I probably agree with that. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about this that are not relevant right now, but that's also sort of the Max Tegmark view of things. Well, and many other people, but yeah. No, the idea that you have to simulate something for it to exist is, I don't think, relevant, right? All simulating something does is bring it information theoretically closer to you and that you can see it now, right? And see details of it. Something where a vertical mirror with a rock on it breaks when your character pushes the mirror rock off a ledge, but when you drop onto the same mirror, it doesn't break. Is this inconsistent? Yeah, that's something. It's also, it's not really about mirrors. It's about things falling because the same thing will happen. Like if it's a player underneath, they'll get killed by rocks and not by players, right? So we just need to determine what the rules should be. It feels weird for a player landing on another player to always kill them, but it would be consistent and simple based on the rule that things weigh one square. And so, maybe there's something also about maybe the warrior can catch things that are falling. I don't know. But basically, once things go into falling mode, that's what happens. Why can't you see details of something without simulating it? If you have a state, you can just inspect it. Um, but that's what we mean by simulating it. How would you get the state without simulating it? Like we're talking about like another universe or something, right? How would you get a state from another universe that has a different base set of rules than quantum mechanics? How would you simulate that? Or how would you get that without simulating it? You know what I'm saying? Like instead of quantum mechanics, it has penguin mechanics. Yeah, Permutation City is a really good book. If you haven't read Permutation City, you really should because it's good. Also, there's another novel by Greg Egan that's sort of the sequel to Permutation City in a way. It's called Schild's Ladder, but Schild's Ladder itself is a sequel to a previous book that I don't remember what it's called. Does anyone remember? I sort of think of these as kind of a trilogy. Like Permutation City, like the second book is not exactly a sequel to Permutation City. It's more like Greg Egan does a lot of stuff where you have simulated humans living on computers. But if you read those three as a trilogy, it's pretty interesting. Wasn't there a theory where black hole singularities would act like an infinite chain of baby universes? Yeah, but you don't even need that because modern inflationary theory postulates that. You don't even need black holes. Penguin mechanics like banana mechanics, sort of, but different. Diaspora is your favorite Egan. I don't remember Diaspora. Which one is that? That might be the one I'm thinking of that Schild's Ladder is the sequel to. Dude, I don't remember this one at all. I know I've read it. Let me look up Schild's Ladder. Maybe it'll say, maybe I need to reread all my Greg Egan. I don't know. This was a really good book. Have I read the Expanse novels? No, I saw the show for a while. Finished the Three Body Problem trilogy. It blew your mind. I mean, I got to the end of the first book and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Um, it just wasn't for me. Which Greg Egan book is the one with the expanding sphere? Quarantine, I think, right? Is that what you mean? Anyway, okay. So we can do, it's about time for me to go to bed, but we'll do a little, let's check this in. Achoo! Where's Do Not Drown? Isn't that the quantum one? Yes. Which Egan should you start? I would start with Permutation City. Into Darkness. A giant sphere of unknown origin jumps between random locations in here. Oh, that one. Right. The one where they like use paintball guns to draw like where you should go on the ground and stuff. I remember that. That's a good story. It's like basically, I don't want to give away very much about it, but it's like there's a sphere of weird physics where you can only go in one direction. You can't go in increasing radius, you can only go in decreasing radius. Okay, let's do a uh no, you know what? Let's leave it there. I'm tired. I'm yawning. There's no reason to force myself to do another thing. We're gonna call it there. Thanks for coming to the stream. We'll probably do some more while I'm traveling, maybe, who knows. Thanks for coming, everybody. So we streamed for like 4:20 today. Bye, everyone. Where's my OBS?